Okay, good morning, welcome. Thank you so much everyone for joining us today. My name is Kerrie and I'm the Director of Marketing and Sales for Wells Gray Tours. And I'm thrilled to have a special guest here with me this morning. She's one of our tour directors, leads many of our tours, but a very special tour that we're going to talk about today, which is Haida Gwaii. And so thank you so much, Lisa, for joining us. So we're here this morning to talk about a very special place, which is Haida Gwaii, of course, known as one of the most isolated islands in Canada. If you can believe this, this summer will be the 45th year that Wells Gray Tours has been taking people to this beautiful destination. We're very proud of that, very honored to always be invited back to share this destination with so many of you. A couple facts about Haida Gwaii. I did the tour a few years ago, and it's a really magical place. You're going to learn that a little bit about that this morning, and more, of course, when you go. But just a couple facts. The island consists of two main islands, which is Moresby Island and Graham Island, and then about 150 smaller islands. And So we'll be spending time on a couple of these islands, really getting to know the people, the culture, taking in all that beautiful scenery if you joined us a couple minutes early to sign on. Now, many of you know that the Haida Gwaii was formerly known as the Queen Charlotte Islands, and that name was changed in 2010, following by the Reconciliation Act and going back to its original name, which was Haida Gwaii, meaning the islands of the people. And I know you're going to learn a lot more about the language, and Lisa can share a few things as we go through the presentation today. A couple interesting things, that the Haida people had been living there almost, there was about 20,000 of them, and they were unfortunately wiped out a lot with smallpox and tuberculosis. So their numbers were significantly reduced to only 600 survivors in the 1900s. And that population has bounced back, which is great. And currently there are about 3,000 Haida living on Haida Gwaii, and about 2,000 other Haida members who are living elsewhere. And one thing you all will also learn when you are there, they do have, the Haida has one of the most interesting social systems in the world. They have two clans, the Eagles and the Ravens. And unlike most places in the world where the clans live in separate places, in the Haida Nation, they're very interdependent on each other. And they are required to marry outside of their clan. And so you're going to learn all about that, about the poles, their clans. I'm wearing a necklace today, which is from the Eagle clan, which I purchased when I was in Haida Gwaii. It's very famous for its artists, of course. Many of you will probably know about Bill Reed. He's a very famous Haida artist who has the sculpture, which is called The Spirit of Haida Gwaii. And that is featured on the back of the $20 Canadian bill. And also, of course, his art is in the Vancouver Airport and at the UBC Museum of Anthropology. So you're going to see lots of beautiful art while you're there. So we'll get going. We'll dive in to the presentation. So I'm just going to go ahead here and share my screen. Now, if you do have any questions, you can go ahead and put those in the chat box, and then at the end, Lisa or myself will address them, or you can follow up with myself at the end of the webinar by email or with your local office. Okay. So pretty exciting. We have 3 departures. 2 departures will be leaving out of the interior, 1 out of Lower Mainland and 1 out of Vancouver Island. Now this is selling out very, very fast. Our Victoria departure actually just filled up last week, so we are currently collecting a wait list for that. We have just a couple seats left on the interior departures, 2 on the July 27th date and 1 seat left on the August 6th date. So if this is a tour you are thinking about or interested about, don't hesitate to book. We are just taking a very small group of 25 people and only a couple seats left. Now it is an activity level 3. We do like to rate our tours by activity levels. This one being a 3 just because of navigating around the island, getting in and out of Zodiac, doing some hiking in the forest, getting down on the beach and doing beach combing. So we just want to make sure you can take part in all those wonderful activities while you're on the tour. And now I just have a short video I'd like to show. It's a really nice overview of Haida Gwaii, a little bit of the scenery and the people and what you will be experiencing.
Ho'a, tlungosh kilug. This is Haida Gwaii, a mystical land where time stands still. Misty rainforests harbor majestic wildlife, and coastal villages preserve an ancestral way of being. This is a land where visitors are asked to pledge their stewardship, to respect nature in a way the Haida have modeled since time immemorial. place of culture, history, and beauty, you'll visit Gwaii National Park Reserve, a protected landscape where moss, draped cedar, and Sitka spruce tower over carved poles and fallen longhouses. You will meet artists who share stories through carvings and weavings. And you'll understand why the ways of the Haida must be respected and preserved. Haida Gwaii di Koyadan.
Okay, I love that video. It really is, after traveling there myself, it's a beautiful overview of the respect for nature that they have, how everything is connected, and some of the local people that hopefully you will meet. Now, we're not going to go through day by day for this itinerary during the webinar, just because of the nature of Haida Gwaii, being a smaller community, having local people in the community. Each itinerary is slightly different. You will all see the same highlights, but they will probably most likely happen on different days and different times, just depending on sort of how things are working that day in the community and the locals that are working that day. But this, as you can see in the photograph, is our limo. This is our coach that will take us all around Haida Gwaii. So it is nothing too fancy, it's basic, but it's a wonderful way to get around and get up and close, personal. We can park everywhere, and you can hop on and off the bus and see all the things we need to see. We also will be taking a very small ferry, so our coach drives right onto the ferry. This takes us across from Moresby Island and over to Sandspit, and so we do get to board the ferry. As you can see, it's absolutely beautiful scenery, very, very quiet, just a tiny ferry that just loads a small amount of cars. And when you're on the ferry, I believe it's only about a 15 or 20-minute journey across, and you can get off and get out and just be outside, enjoying the nature, watching for wildlife. This was a picture of our group last year. Anything, Lisa, you'd like to add about the ferry?
Yeah, so as soon as we get into the ferry lineup early, and it's the local ferry, and then so yeah, you saw that if it's a warm day, you can dip your feet in the ocean while we're waiting for the ferry. And yeah, as you said, it's about a 15-minute ferry ride across, and usually we get off the bus and go up to this upper observation area. And yeah, just enjoy the ride across, and quite often that's our first chance to meet some locals as well.
Great. Yeah, and it gives you a nice overview of the scenery of Haida Gwaii, just riding this ferry over, and the landscape and how vast it is.
Right, so we're on the ferry, we're headed from Moresby Island to Graham Island.
And then we check into our home away from home. So this is the Sea Raven Motel. It is a motel, not a hotel. We do like to point that out. Haida Gwaii is not equipped for hotels. They don't have very fancy 5-star accommodations there. It is a small community, so it's a basic hotel. It has everything you need, but it's not luxurious by any means. So we like you to keep that in mind, but it's comfortable, and it has a view of the ocean, which is nice, and there is a restaurant right on site.
Yeah, and oh, just one other thing.
Go ahead. Yeah, Lisa, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, just the location of the Sea Raven. There are a couple of other smaller accommodations, but they're not right near the town. This is right near the town of Dajing-Gieds, which is formerly known as the village of Queen Charlotte. And so you are a 2-minute walk from the convenience store, 5-minute walk from a little grocery store, a couple of minutes from the liquor stores. So it's nice and convenient where we are, and you're just right across the street from the ocean.
Yeah, and it's nice to walk. I did the walk into town, and we'll talk more about, there's a visitor center and a couple small restaurants. So it's nice to be located really close that you can just wander in and go meet locals or do a little bit of shopping on your own. Now, one of the huge highlights that will be on your tour is having dinner with a Haida member, Roberta Olson. She serves a fabulous Haida feast in her home. So this is her with her grandchildren. She is the chef. They are the servers. This is a picture to the right of her in her home. You're invited into her living room, and it's just an absolutely fantastic evening. She has the most beautiful scenery right out her front door. And Lisa's going to talk a little bit more about the food, but she basically serves you a traditional meal of, you know, what's in season, what they foraged that day, and it is absolutely delicious. And I have a photo. So this is sort of a typical plate of probably most likely, so you're going to try some different Haida foods while you're there. Do you want to talk a bit more about that, Lisa?
Sure. So we will be trying 2 types of kelp and with herring roe. Some is wet and it's almost like little pop rocks, and some is dry. So you'll get to try both of those. And then there is smoked salmon as well as baked salmon. And then there's always just whatever local berries in the salad. And then sweet potatoes that are, I believe it's an indigenous type of sweet potato. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's a fabulous meal. So we start, I think the next slide is the appetizer plate.
Yes.
And so it's a little piece of bannock. And so the little square you see is the roe with, so that's the wet roe. And then on the appetizer plate,
it's hard to, oh, there we go.
Oh, there we are. So right in the middle, that's the dried roe. And then you've also got some dried salmon there. You've got some seaweed, and you've got a little piece of bannock. And as Kerrie said, this is just a wonderful experience. Just getting a chance to meet Roberta and her family. Her daughters are there, her grandchildren are often there. And you will have seen that some people are facing like the view out the windows, and some people were not, but not to worry, because the other wall that they are facing is mirrors. So you still are able to enjoy that view while you're having dinner.
That's right. And she has beautiful art around her home, which she will speak to if she has time. And as Lisa mentioned, all the food, I didn't think I loved fish roe, and I absolutely thought everything on the plate was delicious. I ate everything. So I love salmon. The bannock was delicious, but it was challenging to be adventurous and tried some of those foods that we're not maybe necessarily used to eating. Just over here on the interior of British Columbia.
For me, one of the highlights of this dinner is a soup called jum, and it is a spicy halibut soup. Ooh. And like there are times in the winter when I'm at home and I just, oh, that would be the perfect thing. But it's that's one of the things our meal starts with is the jum, which is lovely.
Excellent. And as Lisa mentioned, the berries in the salad when I was there, just depends on timing and weather, but they had picked huckleberries and they were so delicious and had put those on the salad. So always, you never know what you're going to get, but it's always a wonderful surprise. And I have a short video just about a little bit about Roberta. We'll just watch that.
Cooking wasn't always my thing, but when we were blockading the logging roads, 85 to 89, I volunteered to cook because you need a cook wherever you go. And when there was tears and blockading and helicopters and police and jail and all that, Everybody was crying, and I found when I made food, it made them happy. That's when I realized food can build your spirit, your soul, your mind, your body. So I took it more serious. Because I just moved in this house years ago, and it was like I was rolling around heaven all day with this view and ravens and eagles and whales out there. And then I opened it up to the world.
Oh, I just get goosebumps watching that. She's such a wonderful woman. It is such a special evening. Definitely a huge highlight of the tour, I would say. So that is something to really look forward to. There's lots of wonderful photo opportunities. This is a really fun one. We always stop here at Balance Rock, very famous. It's sort of a it happened from the glaciers. It left this giant rock there, and it's basically glued to the other rock, so wind and waves can't knock it over. It looks like you can push it right over, but it's been there for thousands of years, and it's just a really beautiful view. You can walk right out, and here's a picture of our group. So we always take the group out, sometimes have people trying to push it over. It doesn't look like it's very big, but then when you get all these people in front of it, you can really see how large of a formation it is. Anything else with that, Lisa, that at Balance Rock? It's just a wonderful photo opportunity and a beautiful view of the whole ocean and the beaches.
Yeah, it's a wonderful spot. So we always plan our stop there according to the tide. So sometimes it's the beginning of that day, or sometimes it's the end of that day that we do our stop there. And of course, everybody takes the individual iconic photo of trying to push the rock over.
Yeah.
This is a really sacred spot with the Haida women, and Haida women often get together and we'll do a ceremony here. And years ago, when Haida Gwaii was first being colonized, or people would come and try and blow up the rock just to see if they could do it. And this rock is not going anywhere until Mother Nature says it's time for it to go, because dynamite, they've tried all sorts of things. They've tried pulling the rock and it's not budging.
Oh, wow. Yes, good. I hope it never moves.
Yeah.
This was another huge highlight for me, just really getting out into the forest, doing some forest walks with a guide, learning about trees, the communication that trees have with other trees, the whole system of how the forest works. I learned a lot on this forest walk. It's beautiful. The smell in these cedar forests is amazing. So we do walk along the Golden Spruce Trail. Of course, that's very famously known for the golden spruce, which was the tree that was taken down, was cut down in 1997. So there was huge controversy around that. There has been a documentary made and also a book written, but the tree was over 300 years old and over 20 feet in width. But you will see that walking through the forest. Many of the trees that are in this forest are over 500 years old. And just the amount that you learn about forests and everything being connected is a really neat day. And then there's a picture here. Just some of the trees are so big and some of them are hollow, so you can actually walk right through and get your photo taken, like this lady did here on the left, or even just putting our whole group in front of the tree and realizing just how big these trees really are. Anything else, Lisa, about the forest walk?
Yeah, just like what you said, Kerrie, it's so interesting learning about the mycelium and how the trees communicate with each other. And that's just such a highlight of this walk, is learning about all of that. And then by the time you get to the end of the forest is the view over of where the golden spruce once stood. It's now basically just a gray log down into the water, but it's quite an interesting story for sure.
And they will recommend a few books you can read just about the trees and feeding each other and the sugars, and they actually feed each other. It's a whole ecosystem underneath the earth and the root systems, and if one tree is dying, it will send it sugars from another tree to feed the dying tree. And so there's just a lot of things that you'll learn that I wasn't even aware of living here with all the forests around us. Then we get into some of the village visiting. So we do go into some of the Haida villages, Old Masset being one of them. Lots of art in Masset, lots of poles. There's lots of totem poles around Masset. So we do a walk around to learn about the poles, just about the village. There is also a wonderful center. It's a jewelry store, I guess. It sells native art. It's owned by Sarah Davidson. So it's a craft shop, and she sells all different local artists work here, anywhere from the weaved hats to the jewelry. This is where I purchased my necklace. So this is a wonderful stop. You'll learn more about the art and the crests and the meanings behind them, and then you'll have an opportunity to shop. And I know Lisa, maybe you'll mention at the end just about you have a very special necklace as well.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that. And I have one more short video. So this is Reg Davidson, and he is a very famous carver in Haida Gwaii.
My Haida name is Skilcotlis, but in the world today they know me as Reg Davidson. And I'm from Haida Gwaii. More years than not, I've been an artist, Haida carver. I'm a morning person, so I get up early and enjoy the quietness. I start between 4 and 5 every day. My objective is to be happy and enjoy what I'm doing. And I never wish for anything, because then that makes you feel sad because you're not happy with what you're doing. And I never grew up with our culture, but our grandkids grow up with it now, and it's in the school system. You know, so it's gone full circle. I always feel everybody has a culture, but the only difference with us is we're hanging on to what we have, you know.
So yes, he's a fabulous man. I believe Sarah is his granddaughter. She's the one that runs the shop. They may or may not be there when you're there, but it's just a fabulous visit to Old Masset to learn about that. And as he mentioned, the culture coming for full circle, you'll learn a lot about that, reintroducing the Haida language to the children, teaching that in school again. And Lisa mentioned this to me the other day. So many of the names are going back into Haida. So just as it was called Queen Charlotte's, it's now called Haida Gwaii, and they're starting to rename a lot of the parks just to put them back into that, into their language. So you'll start to hear that a lot while you're visiting. Another fabulous day is we go to Naikun Provincial Park. This is a beautiful, I actually took this photograph. This beautiful forest, the colors of the green, the moss. You can walk along the moss. It feels like you're walking on clouds. It's a really beautiful park, very different than just being right in the cedar forest. So we do have time here to walk and take pictures. The highlight being we go up Toe Hill. So this is a nice hike. There is a path, so it's got stairs all the way to the top, and then you have the magnificent view of the whole coastline at the very top of Toe Hill. And Lisa, do you want to add anything about Toe Hill?
Yeah, so at Toe Hill, you do have the option of climbing up the hill, and you go up one path and come down another and end up at the blowhole. Or if you don't feel like doing a climb uphill, you can take the lower path to the blowhole. And but when you're up at Toll Hill, if it's a clear day, you can see Alaska.
Right, that's right. I forgot that. Yeah, and so here's a picture of the staircase. They've done a fabulous job making a really nice navigatable staircase, non-slip grip on the top of it. I would say it's about a 10-15 minute walk to the top to see that view. Then you have some time to enjoy it and then make your way back down, as Lisa mentioned. If you're not up for the hike for whatever reason, you can go out to the blowhole. I'll just skip ahead. This is a picture of the blowhole. And that erupts, I believe, every few minutes type thing. So, and this is a really neat walk out just to see the blowhole erupting.
Yeah, it's very dependent on the tide. So,
okay.
and so it's, but it's a beautiful spot, and the rocks out there are really, really interesting. And so even if the blowhole is not doing its thing, it's a really, really magical spot to be.
Great. And another fun thing to do is you can search for treasures. There is a beach called Agate Beach, and you can search for agates here. We may or may not, just depending on the tide and timing, stop at Agate Beach. If not Agate Beach, there's lots of beaches we stop. You can do beach combing, and it is fun to search for the agates on the beach. They are very well known in Haida Gwaii to find them. So it's really fun to do beach combing and look for those agates. That's the picture of the blowhole. And then we do have a full day. This is devoted to the Haida Heritage Center. This site, it's a museum. In the first video I showed, they had a nice drone picture of the overview. They keep expanding it every year and adding on. Located on a beautiful beach with the totem poles out front, and you have time to enjoy the museum, do a tour on the inside of the museum, and then hopefully if there's time, they also do a tour on the outside to talk about the monumental poles and the meaning behind them and when they were raised and why they were raised. And it was a very moving experience. A few people in our group were brought to tears just listening to all the stories. So this is a fabulous day. And I believe the museum opened in 1976, which was by Pierre Trudeau. And then since then, they've just been putting money in every year to keep expanding it, add more art. And there is lunch here. And then we'll have Haida guides sort of taking you around throughout the day to just point out all the things. So this is a little picture of the inside, just some of the fabulous art. And then a few pictures of the outside, kind of close up. This was our group last year, learning about the different crests on the pole and the meaning behind them and how the family picks the crests. And there's just so much to learn and so much to know. I think we have one more picture and just the beautiful view of the backdrop where the museum sits there. Anything else you can think about for the Haida Heritage Museum, Lisa?
Yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite spots. And this little cove, so it's Kailangai is or known as the Kai Center. And this is such a beautiful, peaceful little spot. And yeah, this museum is fabulous. The Haida has really been able to rediscover its culture over the last few generations, and also be able to get back a lot of its art that was spread all over the world. The 6 poles that are in the front were raised in 6 days, a pole a day when they were raising these. And Yeah, and this is where we learn, whether we do it at the beginning of the tour, in the middle, or at the end, but this is where we really get to tie in everything that we have learned in the other places. So, yeah, this is a wonderful day.
Yes, and just beside the museum, this is the canoe shed, and it's open. The canoes are there. Really fun to just go wander around. When we were there, no one was there, but the canoes are there, and some just beautiful art on the canoes. So you can go and kind of peek around there. And then there's also a carving shed. And this was a picture that I took on our tour. We were very lucky that they were working on a pole and carving a pole during our tour. So if you happen to be on there on a day that they're working, they'll invite you in and let you know what they're carving and why and what it's for. It's really neat to watch them work and just how intricate it is, and from where it starts to where it finishes, and the amount of work and time and effort and community that is involved in putting one of these poles together, and learning about how they raise them up and what happens to them as they decompose. So there's lots to learn and know. And then, I also have another very exciting day. So you have pretty busy 5 packed days while you're there, or 6 days, 5 nights. This is an all-day trip. We board Zodiacs for an excursion around Louise Island. So this is in the Guahanas National Park. They mentioned in the video at the beginning. So this is our group. They do outfit you in these jackets. They want to make sure you're nice and warm, even in the summertime. Being out on the ocean, it can be very cool. So you can see people are wearing toques and jackets and rain pants. So you definitely want to dress warm for this day, even if the sun is shining, because we are right out on the water. It's a beautiful trip through these secluded coves, lots of narrow passageways, wildlife around you, and we're making our way over to Skidans National Park. This is our Zodiacs coming up here. They'll bring you right up onto the beach. And just another view of the beautiful scenery that you'll experience while you're Zodiacing there. And then we will do a walk and guided tour in Skidans to just learn about this abandoned Haida village and about the poles and the watchmen and how it's all maintained and taken care of. And then we have a delicious picnic lunch right on the beach in Skidans before Zodiacing back. Anything else, Lisa, about this day?
Yeah, this is my favorite day. And I mean, all the days are wonderful. This, you just feel where you are and the people who lived there in this village. You just feel it in your soul. What happened with all of these southern villages, as well as in the north, is when smallpox hit, there were very, very few people left here, and they just couldn't maintain the village. And that's when people were moved into Skidegate and from all these different villages to create a new community, because as I said, there wasn't enough people. But as I said, you can feel the people who lived there, the people who made these poles. We learn all about how the houses were that they were living in. And yeah, an absolutely wonderful day. And it's about an hour Zodiac ride each way. And yeah, it can be an 80-degree day, but yeah, you can see everyone's really bundled up.
It's amazing, just the breeze off the water. Even in the summer, it can just be pretty cold. But this company that we use every year, which is Moresby Explorers, are absolutely a phenomenal company. Very educated, have science or geography backgrounds. They really know what they're doing. They know the land, and they are fantastic guides. And the lunch is delicious. So it is a really fabulous day. Okay, and then just one more slide to share. There is a wonderful visitor center right in town, so very close to where we are staying, to the Sea Raven Motel, about a 5-minute walk, as Lisa mentioned, into town. Just want to double check the hours, but they have some wonderful t-shirts, different postcards. They do have a little aquarium display. They have short videos playing sometimes that you can watch just about the area. So this is a wonderful stop. We may not include it as a whole group going together, but I would suggest if you have time on your own to make sure you do check out this really wonderful visitor center. And you can do a little bit of shopping there. And I know Lisa has a little bit more information to share about a beautiful necklace that she purchased there.
Yeah, actually, I purchased the necklace at Sarah's, but they do they do carry the Argillite, definitely at the visitor center. And this visitor center is a 2-minute walk from our hotel, and very close. But yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Argillite. I don't know if you can see mine. It is a raven, and this is actually a raven stealing the light, which is a legend that is from many different Indigenous cultures. But the Argillite stone is only found in Haida Gwaii, and it's only able to be harvested by the artist who carve it. And it is a 2.5-hour boat ride, a 2.5-hour walk up the mountain. It takes about 5 or 6 hours to harvest the stone. And then you are carrying the stone all the way down the hill. That takes about 3 hours. So it's a full day's work just to be able to get the small amount of stone to create the jewelry or the small carvings that you are going to be working on for that year. And there's a number of different artists, and there's different generations. You'll see different, in many cases, in much of the art around Haida Gwaii, you'll see names like Edgar and Davidson and White and different generations of those families. But yeah, as I said, the Argillite's a really special thing to be able to get from Haida Gwaii.
Very, very cool. I remember seeing it. I know some people in our group had bought I bought a silver necklace, but yeah, there's just some fabulous things to think that you can buy, and you probably will want to come home with a little special something. Okay, so that is the end of the presentation. If you do have questions, please go ahead, put those in the chat box. Lisa and I can try and answer those this morning. We just wanted to give you a bit of an overview of a little bit of what you'll see and experience, and a bit about the culture of the Haida. What we are going to do now is everyone who registered for the webinar, I have put your names into a draw, and we're going to draw for this fabulous book called The Golden Spruce. And it is a true story, of course, about that Sitka spruce that was cut down, which was over 300 years old, and the controversy around that, and the story just about that whole story. It's a fascinating book, a must read if you're going to Haida Gwaii. So one lucky winner is going to win that today. So I'll just going to stop sharing this screen and pull up a different screen here. Let me just get that. And hopefully you can all see this. Let me know, Lisa, can you see a wheel spinning with names?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so all of your names are entered into the wheel, and we're going to go ahead and spin the wheel. Okay, that's our lucky winner, is Edie Swanson. So congratulations, Edie. And what I will do is I will be mailing you directly the book, The Golden Spruce. I will get hold of you and get that book sent off. So I'm just going to open up our chat box, Lisa, and just see if we have any questions. No, it looks like we don't. So hopefully maybe we've answered questions this morning. I want to say thank you so much to Lisa for joining us. And I know she's thrilled to be going back this summer and leading our guests again in Haida Gwaii.
Yeah, especially after doing this, I'm really excited to go back.
It really does get you excited. And I can say honestly, by being there, it is a very special place. It will really open your heart and your mind, and the appreciation for nature and sustainability and food and where things come from. It'll change you and it'll humble you a little bit, I think. And every once in a while we need to be humbled. So that's definitely what it did for me. So I highly recommend this trip. I really did love it. So we just have those 3 seats left. So if you're interested, please let us know. Oh, I think I see a hand up. Maybe we have a question. Oh, no, there's a hand up, but no question. So, but please follow up with me. I will, this is recorded and I will email you all the recording, and just let your offices know. Oh, there is a question coming in, Lisa. So just here we go. Are there any alternative meals for people who don't eat seafood? That's a great question.
Yes, as long as we know ahead of time that is able to be accommodated, and it's not as elaborate, especially at the Haida Feast. It is not as an elaborate of a meal because that meal is so seafood based, but yes, there is definitely an alternative.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, any dietary allergies, or if you can't eat something, just let us know when you book the tour. That helps us communicate with restaurants. We do our absolute best, and the restaurants will as well. Sometimes we're in remote places, it's more difficult, but there is usually always an option for something else, as long as we know ahead of time. So that's great. I think that was the only question. All right, well, we wish you safe and happy travels in Haida Gwaii, Lisa. Haida Gwaii, of course, was closed during the pandemic, and so we're thrilled they have reopened to guests, allowing us to come back and visit them and learn all about their culture. So if you're going on this tour, we hope you have a fabulous time. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, please let us know. So thank you on behalf of Wellsbury Tours, and thank you to Lisa. And yes, we wish you all very safe and happy travels this summer.
Great, thank you, Kerrie.
All right, okay, take care, everyone.